Welcome to this presentation. Since 2009, Anatolia College has been authorized by Michigan State University to administer its English language exams in northern Greece. The two exams at B2 and C2 levels of the CEFR, namely the MSU-CELC and the MSU-CELC, are also administered in southern Greece by DERI, the American College of Greece, and are recognized by ASEP, the Supreme Council for Civil Personnel Selection. As Director of the Testing Office at Anatolia College, I will be taking you through the features of the new format of the MSU-CELC, which will be administered for the first time in December 2020. This new format will introduce important new features that bring the MSU-CELC up to date with current demands from those in the field of language instruction and testing. So why was there a need to make changes to the format of an exam that was already well received by teachers and language school owners throughout Greece? To begin with, Michigan State University decided to respond to feedback which had been passed on to them over the years by Anatolia College and DERI. This feedback came from candidates and language teachers who constructively commented on various features of all sections of the exam. At the same time, Michigan State University recognized that the age group making up the majority of MSU-CELC candidates was one that was constantly being exposed to new ideas and information, and consequently needed to have their interests catered for in as many engaging ways as possible. Finally, with the average person's attention span having become even shorter today, the need was seen to produce, by virtue of its reduced length and item counts, a more candidate-friendly test. The word counts for the 4 reading comprehension passages range between 360 and 430, and the texts are accompanied by striking illustrations that help engage the candidate's interests. There are fewer questions for each section, 30 for the listening, 30 for the grammar section, and 30 for the reading comprehension passages. This new total is 90 questions. Previously, it was 120. MSU will be presenting topics of current interest to young test takers. The Cultural Sensitivity Committee considers feedback from Anatolia College and DERI before deciding on the suitability of topics. Text formats of interest to teenagers today are presented. For example, we have blogs, emails, text messages, social media posts, posters, and so on. Finally, MSU will ensure that the passages present more high-frequency vocabulary. The new CELC speaking section will be only 5 tasks. This will include 1 description, 2 narrations, and 2 supported opinions. The interview will begin with a short warm-up activity which is unrated. It usually involves introductions and finding out a little about the candidate, checking his or her identity, and so on. The first task the candidate has is to provide a description of a known or familiar object. The candidate will hear an example description from the interlocutor. The next 2 tasks require the candidate to provide narrations of something they personally experienced. No examples will be heard. The final 2 tasks require the candidates to give their opinions on 2 topics and provide relevant support for what they say. If candidates are unfamiliar with the topic, they should be made aware that they may ask the examiner for a different one, but they cannot do this more than twice for each task. The speaking section, what you should know. The public rubric, which is available on our website, in keeping with the need for transparency, will now clearly explain the scoring criteria and provide useful insights into how examiners evaluate a candidate's performance on each type of task. It's preferable that you download the rubric from our website and refer to it as I explain how points are awarded for a candidate's performance on each task. The rubric addresses the candidates directly and makes them aware of what examiners will be looking for in their performances. If you look closely at the rubric, it's divided into 3 sections. Take a moment now to locate the 3 different sections in the rubric, representing the 3 areas which examiners are paying attention to in a candidate's performance. The first section is language control. The second section is intelligibility. And the third section is task completion. For each of the areas, a useful tip is given to candidates to help them do their best. Now read what these tips are. They are advised to choose their words carefully. They are advised to speak clearly and to make themselves understood. Finally, they are advised to give complete answers, providing examples and explanations. I will now briefly explain the performance descriptions for the highest and lowest points awarded for each of the sections. Let's look at the column in the first section, which is labeled Language Control. If candidates hope to be awarded 4 points for any task, then they are advised to use a wide variety of appropriate words and grammatical structures to make what they are saying perfectly clear, and they either make no mistakes or make only small errors that do not make it difficult at all for the examiners to understand what they are saying. However, if they are going to be awarded 1 point in this section for any task, it's because they use only very common words and say very little or repeat the same words again and again. Let's now look at the column in the second section labeled Intelligibility. If a candidate hopes to be awarded 4 points for any task, then they are advised to speak clearly enough so that examiners can understand them at all times without any effort. However, if the candidate does not speak clearly enough for the examiners to understand without making a special effort, about half the time or more, the candidate will be awarded 1 point only. Finally, let's look at the column in the last section labeled Task Completion. In order to be awarded 4 points in this section, candidates should give complete and clear answers with strong supporting answers and explanations. However, a candidate who gives incomplete or unclear answers to the examiner's questions on a topic cannot expect to be awarded more than 1 point. The maximum basic score is 20 points. The basic score is then converted to a section score of 0 to 25 points, rounded to the nearest whole number. Richer context for listening and reading passages and essay tasks. In selecting and developing the test materials for each administration, Michigan State University will be applying the 4 W's for all sections. This means that candidates should be able, for each section, to relate to the situation that's being presented, whether it is in the 2 essay prompts, the different listening dialogues, the 4 reading passages, or the 5 speaking tasks. They will be made aware of who is using the language, when the language is being used, where the language is being used, and why the language is being used. Even if they are required to imagine a situation, it'll be one which they could possibly find themselves in. More often than not, they will be exposed to realistic situations which are likely to be encountered by candidates. In the same way, the essay prompts they are asked to select from will be contextualized insofar as they make clear the 4 W's, remembering that the candidates are always required to present their opinion and not the opposing arguments. Here are some questions that we anticipate may arise concerning the new MSU-CELC format being introduced in December 2020.
How often will the new test be administered?
Twice a year, in December and in May.
In what order are the various sections of the written exam taken?
The 35-minute writing section is taken first. This is followed by the listening section, which lasts approximately 35 minutes. Next is the 20-minute grammar section, and finally the candidates take the 50-minute reading comprehension section. Oral interviews are conducted every 15 minutes and are usually scheduled on the same day after the written exam.
Are candidates examined in pairs?
No, candidates are examined one at a time by 2 examiners, an interlocutor who conducts the interview and an evaluator who might occasionally ask a question as well.
Are there breaks between the various sections of the written exam?
No, all sections are administered one after the other without any breaks. However, candidates may be allowed to visit the restroom at a convenient time if there is an urgent need to do so.
Do candidates with special needs or learning difficulties receive special treatment?
Yes, the testing office, provided it is informed in good time about any such candidates and receives acceptable medical documentation, will grant a wide range of accommodations. Accommodations include such things as extra time, testing in a separate room, breaks to enable a candidate to take a snack or medication. Other accommodations can be provided depending on a candidate's needs.
Is the use of a pen allowed to mark the answer sheet or write the essay?
No, pens are not allowed. Candidates must have with them a couple of HB pencils, a soft eraser, and a pencil sharpener. No correction fluid or Tipp-Ex is allowed either. Go for it. It's exciting, it's in sync, it's simply CELC. Prepare your students for a certificate they can be proud to possess. It only remains for me to encourage your students to give the new MSU-CELC a try. In the meantime, stay safe and well. Thank you for your attention. How to contact the Anatolia College Testing Office. If you wish to ask any further questions or obtain further information, please try one of the following ways: emailing me directly at my email address, the office, or calling one of the 2 numbers provided. Thank you.